Thank you for joining us on this edition of Text Messages Resurrected. My name is Rick Tex. I'm the parasite of the show. We're absolutely elated to have you joining us once again this evening. So originally we had planned to take a week off, but what ended up happening is after about 3 days or so, just the body and the mind and the soul were just screaming at me. I had to get back on the air, had to get back on the broadcast to make sure you, the ladies and gentlemen at home, are entertained and hopefully informed as well. I mean, think of it as exercise or weightlifting, something like that. Once you get into a routine and you do things that you know are healthy and that are good for not only yourself but for those around you, you almost become addicted to it. But in a sort of a good way. It's more of a good addiction. And then when you stop doing it, your body just completely rebels against you, and it just doesn't force you to enjoy your existence or to be content without doing the actions that you've previously committed to that you know are good and righteous. It's like eating bad food as well. You eat bad food, almost immediately your gut bacteria is going to yell at you, your stomach is going to be in pain, your esophagus may start burning, you might get acid reflux, you might get vomiting, you might get cold sweats, all kinds of weird things happen. So when you eat good food, then good things happen to your body. You become healthy, you become energetic, you feel great, want to get outside and get after it and get social and just contribute to society, be a productive member of it. So what we're going to do is, basically we're going to set up a second video editing equipment, and this one was going to run off of an Intel processor, some older motherboard, probably mid 2015 or so. And rather than buying an operating system, we're going to use a Linux one and then try to get Cinelera as a video editing software. So we're just trying to find what works the best. I mean, it may not be better, it may be worse, and it's definitely going to be a learning curve. So probably next week we'll most likely start editing our videos in that, if everything goes to plan, which it rarely does. But if it does go to plan, probably by next week, mid next week, we'll be editing with Cinelera and see how it goes from there. Now that's assuming that when we build up the new computer hardware with the with the new motherboard and the power supply and the hard drive and then the tower and the operating system, Linux operating system, Ubuntu, we assume that everything will work fine at some point. I mean, not instantly, but eventually. There's a lot of complex equipment and gadgetry that goes into making a computer work and function to just ultimately do what it needs to be, do what needs to be done. So we're just gonna hope for the best, high aspirations, low expectations. It's kind of the motto, especially if you're a Minnesota Vikings sports fan. But yeah, that's the tentative plan. So that would probably result in the new and improved, assuming it's improved, which it may not be. It might be a complete disaster. But the idea behind that is that, so with one system, we got AMD processor, VSDC running Windows, and another one we have Intel processor running Linux with the graphics card and the Cinelera. We may or may not have a graphics card, but this is just all on-air production meeting. So we're just gonna try and utilize different ways of broadcasting the show, and hopefully we'll find a good match. I mean, we believe we've got the sound quality where we need to. Now it's just a matter of, once we start incorporating this Elgato cam link, and then we can actually film directly to OBS Studio, which we'll be using on the other Linux system as well, then we can start live streaming, and who knows really what can happen with that. But it'll probably be pretty similar to our pre-recorded broadcasts here. I mean, the pre-recorded broadcasts are basically live because I just don't really spend a whole lot of time editing it. Just start it where the speaking begins and end it where the speaking ends. It's pretty much all there is to it. There's no putting words together or putting words in the mouth or taking words out of the mouth or partitioning things and fragmenting them and then combining them to make a very convoluted message or just a blatantly false message. So I mean, that's really all there is to it, ladies and gentlemen. So just bear with us. We'll eventually get to the finish line. So what we wanted to talk about today is sunscreen. In an article I came across, naturalnews.com, sunscreen is killing people Now, sunlight is deadly. Now, sunlight deficiency is deadly. So what usually ends up happening is a lot of mainline accepted dogma, you could call it. Say, for example, a low-fat diet. Now all of a sudden it's a ketogenic diet. Or sun is bad, it has UV rays. Now all of a sudden sun is great again. Your skin synthesizes vitamin D, which is the current train of thought, and it's the common sense train of thought. It may not be mainline train of thought. It's just maybe I'm just completely disconnected from, mainstream news outlets or advertising. See, that might be because, just sticking with antenna TV and just maybe watching some random videos here and there online, you really do tend to get out of touch with the pack mentality that's typically prevalent inside just society in general. I mean, that was the internet's original intention, to try to get us all hoarded up into our little, just rather than just one country being part of the pack mentality, to get the entire world into that pack mentality, the NWO. But the fact of the matter is, sunscreen is apparently killing people. Now sunlight deficiency is deadly. So what ends up happening is the sun doesn't actually transmit vitamin D into your body. When it hits your skin, it's sort of like a plant. Your plant needs sunlight and carbon dioxide, and then it produces oxygen, and then it produces its growth hormones or its growth factors. So that's a lot like your body. You need the sunlight, you need the oxygen. With that, you create your growth factors, and the vitamin D is one of that. And your skin is an organ, just like your liver, your kidneys, your pancreas, your stomach, your intestines, your spleen, your gallbladder, your esophagus, your ovaries. It works just like that. It's part of your endocrine system, which endo means inside. And that it just sends the hormone. It secretes the vitamin D in your blood. That vitamin D goes to the random spots that needs it. When the receptors get the vitamin D, then they can synthesize their growth factors and replace and regenerate important cells. So that's why the sun hitting your skin is very important. Now, a lot of people, red-haired, blonde-haired, fair-skinned, they're obviously not going to be able to spend as much time in the sun because their skin is not equipped or it doesn't have the proper defense mechanisms for it. So you got to, everybody is unique in their own way. Like, some people can eat certain types of food that are superfoods and others can't because they don't have the gut microbiota for it. So that's the same with the sun. Some people can sit in the sun all day and they won't get any deleterious effects. Others, especially red-haired people, they'll be in the sun for 10 minutes and they're burnt already. So you need to cater things to your own needs and to your own wants and desires and what works best for yourself. But I'm just telling you, in general, sunscreen is just very damaging to people. And in fact, sunscreen chemicals, when they're exposed to chlorine, as far as like municipal pools and swimming pools, see, open up a bottle of bleach once, and if you smell it, it smells like any swimming pool or high school or municipal pool or those wading pools. Just any type of pool with treated water will smell like your bottle of bleach. You can go ahead and open it right now and confirm that. So what happens, when these sunscreen chemicals, when they come into contact with the chlorine, they transform into carcinogens, which is cancer-causing agent. They also have ingredients which cause infertility, immune system damage, and they have there's certain types of pools where they'll add some chemicals to, like copper or something like that, and then it'll turn the pool blue. And what that creates is bromoform, which is your liver and their kidneys try to filter that out, and it ends up causing damage to them, like all those little filter capillaries, those nephrons. And it also creates damage to the nervous system, because see, the bromoform, it gets onto the receptors for the iodine and things of that nature, or the thyroid, and those other receptors that typically want the iodine, but then the chlorine, the bromine, the fluorine get onto those receptors, so then it can no longer communicate properly. So it's not, the thing with the sun, like anything, is it requires good balance. It's not 10 hours a day is good, 13 hours is better, 2 hours is worse. It's sort of like exercise. If you do 2 hours a day, 3 days a week, 4 days a week, whatever, that's probably good to achieve optimal health while still having a reasonable amount of time to do other important things in your life, maybe more important things in your life. So the general recommendation for sun is 20 to 30 minutes 3 times per week, and that's just a general guideline. You know, for some people, they could probably be out in the sun 12 hours a day 7 days a week and they wouldn't feel any pernicious effect. Others, 5 minutes a day is probably about all they can handle. See, there have been times in history where people were attractive when they were not in the sun because it was a sign of wealth and high class and that you didn't have to do any manual labor to survive. So there have been generations that have been passed down from that history that are not susceptible, that are more susceptible to sunburn and over tanning or whatever you'd like to call it. So that's just natural human evolution or progression. But I mean, the fact is, you know, last summer, for example, I'd usually spend a few hours outside, maybe not 7 days a week, but 5, 6. Never wore any sunscreen. And there were 2 little moles that showed up, and then there was the pigment that was completely gone around them. One of the circles was almost an inch in diameter. So I went to a dermatologist, and they just looked at it for a little bit and said, "Oh yeah, that's harmless. That's innocuous. It's a mole. It's gonna go away." I mean, at first I was a little bit worried, thinking maybe this is Lyme's disease or some serious issue like that. But yeah, ultimately just a harmless mole. So it'll just take time for it to eradicate. But you know, there's yeah, I mean, when you get a little out of control with things, sometimes you're gonna get the side effects. Like if you drive your car 80 miles per hour on the freeway, you raise your chance of getting an accident. You get less fuel mileage. And if you drive it 50, you're driving on the freeway, you're driving too slow, you might get rear-ended or make people mad and they might pull a gun on you. So that's why balance is important. You know, the speed limit is more or less the recommended speed. So the recommended time to be outside in the sun based on your skin complexion and, you know, hair color and all that is according to your own experimentation. I mean, if you want to slap on sunscreen and get the infertility and kidney disease and liver disease and hop in pools and get the carcinogenic effects, that's something that at Text Messages Resurrection we certainly would not advocate for. And we just want to make it important and known that the sun is critically important. I mean, that's just a common sense evaluation too, because what we try to do here is we try to take common sense, self-experimentation, and then a careful evaluation of the sources where we get our information from, and through there try to make a forthcoming educated decision. And our forthcoming educated decision is 20-30 minutes 3 days a week is probably about, maybe not optimal, but in general that would be good enough to get a good amount of sun too. Oh yeah, during the spring, summer, and fall, probably do a little bit more than that. And your skin adapts to it too, just like any other part of your body. But you know, if it gets to the point where you're just getting freckles everywhere and you just turn into a big giant freckle, that might be an indicator that there's too much time, that you're getting too much time spent in the sun as well. So you always want to keep that in mind, you know, in moderation, good balance. Don't want to overdo anything. Certainly not what we're trying to advocate for. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back momentarily. Take a little breather here for the next episode, and thank you very much for joining us. We really appreciate it.